Hello, everybody, and welcome to week 8. Yes, week 8, you made it. I'm going to share my screen and I'm already transcribing. Let's go there. You'd think after 8 weeks I'd know what to do. I don't. Here we go. Now, I do sound a little bit nasally. I'm sorry. Hay fever, who knows? Who knows? We're just rolling with it. Week 8. We're here. So we're going to cover like one of my favorite topics. I feel like I say that about everything. But this is like the part where I really know my shit and I've taken it from like theories and principles and I've made it what I think is the best of the best. And hopefully in the most concise way. So I'm presenting to you my end game theory about how you can get goals, but done in a way where they're actually meaningful and you actually stick to them. And it means that we really need to be shooting higher so that you've always got these like higher order values and bigger meaning involved. Now, this is your final reminder that you can go in any direction. You can go wherever you like. I'm not presenting a one way of doing things. I'm presenting you like a template or a platform where you create your own choices. You choose your own path. I just give you a little bit of guidance, but I'm not telling you what goals to have. I'm not telling you what to eat. I'm not telling you where to start or how to go about it. I'm just giving you the guide. So this is how we're going to get through today, from letting you know what your end game is, what I think it is, reasons why you're not there yet, going through what your values are and why they're important in achieving your end game and actually getting goals that stick, figuring out what you actually want, which are your objectives. I'm going to show you the end game blueprint and just some fundamentals to round it out. Okay, so what is your ultimate end game? So I define it as like just thinking about if you've arrived at a point where your health and wellness is predictable, effortless, and you have all the experience to foresee shortcomings and manage setbacks. So it's not merely just getting what you want, but getting to a place where it's constant. It's this lifestyle that you're looking for, and it's just who you are. So you don't have to try hard. You've just become that lifestyle that gets you all the things that you want. Now, this is related specifically to health and wellness because obviously that's where my experience lies. But you can apply the ultimate end game to any facet of your life, whether it be your career, relationships, or like it as a total as well. So the questions you need to ask yourself is, how did you get there? How did you get to that point or the top of the hill? What did you do every day and every week? And what tools are you using and what habits did you change? How did you get there? So this is what we're going to try and answer today. So the end game principle is that each decision you make is made with your end game in mind. Now, you may think that that's a little bit cruel, and you may say, hey, Elise, like, does that mean that I can't have cake anymore because I want to lose a little bit of weight, I want to get leaner, so maybe I shouldn't eat cake? Is that what you're saying? Well, no. I mean, if your end game principle is that everything's effortless and easy and you can eat cake and have what you want, then obviously I don't want you to take away cake. I want you to eat cake and get you what you want. And it's very possible. So it's not about restricting, it's not about taking anything away, but instead of feeling like you have to, say, for example, go on a diet to get you to where you want, which we know now is a short-term thing. Instead of wasting your time doing that, think about just building the habits that you want to step into. It's probably going to take a little bit longer, but it's going to be more sustainable. So it's about finding balance, eating some of the food that you want, eating some of the food that you know you should have or get used to, and taking that path instead. So this just shows you, I suppose, the fact that, you may still be on a good path, but you may see yourself maybe not ambitious enough to really get everything that you want. So potentially the worst thing that can happen if you stay in a current trajectory is that you still end up somewhere okay, but it's just not exactly what you want. Whereas your ultimate end game is right at the top. It's everything that you could see yourself wanting. The thing is, what happens in the middle? You've got this gap. Now, the good news is if you work the actions and the habits and the objectives that you decide will get you to your ultimate end game, where everything's effortless and beautiful and nice, the worst thing that can happen is you end up somewhere in the gap. You fall a little bit short, but that's still going to be potentially and probably better than your current trajectory. So I just want to put it out there. There is nothing to lose by just shooting for something a little bit more ambitious or doing more than what you're currently doing. If you want to think of it another way, basically, I want to take you from Sad Island. I want to get you to Happy Island. Maybe the word is different. Maybe you're going from a place of fear and you want to move to a place of confidence. How do you do that? Maybe you just feel a little bit stale and you want to move somewhere where you feel more inspired. Maybe you're really frustrated and you just want to move to a place where you feel more content. This is the end game here, getting you from where you are, which may not be that great, to where you want to be. And stay there as well. But for whatever reason, if you feel like you've been stuck on Sad Island, and you can replace that with any word you want to use as well, if you feel like you've been stuck there for a while, there's a good chance that you haven't addressed your primaries. Now, if we go back, I've covered all these. They are your sleep, your stress, feeling supported by your environment, feeling supported by other people, a general level of healthy eating. God, it's probably something else, but that's, your primaries right there. We covered that in week 2 or 3. Do you have a fear of failure? So is the thought of ending up, let's say, in the water, stopping you from ever leaving that island? We covered that maybe 2 weeks ago. And then what does the thinking brain tell you? Is it your, like the dick of a thinking brain in your head telling you to stay right where you are because it's safe? Is that stopping you from making any moves? So if you've been stuck on Sad Island for a while, even though you have all the motivation and you've got all the desire and all the want to get to Happy Island, but for whatever reason you have not made any steps towards it, go back and check those and make sure they are covered first. You don't have to be perfect at them. I don't think I've ever asked you to be perfect at anything. But if you go by the principle of P's get degrees, if you're at least, 50 to 70% there, you can start working your way towards Happy Island. Change is a messy process. What we just need to understand is that it's not going to be comfortable. And I've already covered that before. Just be okay that nobody is comfortable with change. The only people that seem to be okay with change is because something else has happened to them. They're almost been like shocked or scared into doing something differently. Now, that's not common, so you can't expect that to happen for you. Change is going to be a really messy process. So just get okay with that, and then you can move on. Now, there's this thing called, I'm going to say it wrong, like ambivalence. Ambivalence. Whatever it is, this is what it is. It's where we have the desire, but for whatever reason, we still keep talking ourselves out. So this is a good way to, I suppose, overcome a bit of ambivalence. So if we take the Sad Island and the Happy Island example, you can use whatever words you like. You answer these 4 questions. So you figure out, all right, what's so good about staying where I am? Most of the time it's because it's comfortable, because it's not doing you any harm. What's bad about staying on Sad Island? It may be that, your health isn't getting better, it's getting worse. Maybe you've got different health indicators that are telling you that. Then you ask yourself, what's good about heading for Happy Island? And you could think about all the benefits that are going to come once you get there or on the way there. Let's think about on the way there as well. Knowing that anything is going to be better than staying where you are. And what's bad about swimming for Happy Island? What could go wrong? I think we covered this a couple of weeks ago where we just started to see how trivial some of these answers can be as to why we shouldn't change. So if you're still a little bit stuck on that and you want to do it again, answer those 4 questions. And also think about how likely some of those scenarios are to happen. Example, what's bad about heading towards Happy Island? You might be like, oh, well, I'm going to get eaten by a shark. All right, well, how likely is that to happen? And what's the damage going to be? Okay, let's move on. So that was, why aren't you there yet? So if you've covered all that and you've kind of moved through and developed a bit of confidence and you've kind of really stuck thorns in all those really stupid excuses, you're now ready to go to the next step, which is checking your values. Now, this is also another reason why goals don't stick, is because they're not aligned with your values. Now, I think I cover values in like every single program I run. It just tells you that it's just so important to me that everyone knows what their values are. And they do change. You know, I think that I'm going to have to reevaluate my values next year, because obviously 2021 put a ringer on us all and a lot of things changed in my life. So maybe my perspective has changed. So if you don't know what your values are and you want to do the easy way, just go to drdemartini.com/content/values. He will give you your values after about 20 to 30 minutes of answering his questions. If you want to do it yourself, you probably know your values without putting words to them. So we ask you questions like, what do you believe in? What don't you believe in? And then kind of give yourself the opposite. My big example there is, I really believe in recycling. I believe in renewables. I hate seeing people littering and throwing rubbish out the window and not recycling properly. So that's how I can flip it and say, oh, I really believe in recycling. What do I spend my time doing? What do I spend my time researching, reading, and listening to? Spotify is really good at telling you what you're interested in, telling you your genres and that sort of thing. Your Instagram feed is also going to be a very telltale way of showing you what you're interested in. Going to your saved list and seeing what you're saving. For me, I'm saving lots and lots of exercise ideas, if that's any reference for you. Who do I spend my time with? What sort of people do you spend time with? And what's important to me about my job? What's important to me about my relationships? And what's important to me about where I live? These are some questions. There's probably more, but this is a great start to starting the conversation about like what really is meaningful to you. Because if you can connect your objectives with your values, and if you can connect what you do every day with a value that you have, well, let me tell you, it's coming up here. Values are the why do you do what you do. It's basically your reason for getting up every day. So here's this. It's easier to act in alignment with your values, so you get a natural adherence. It's easier to make decisions when your decisions agree with your values. You don't have to think about them too much because you already believe in them. So you have this unconscious agreement. You just say yes straight away to the things that you believe in. It's easy to see your why, and it's unquestionable. It's like, why do I wake up at 6 a.m.? Why do I run a class at 6:15 in the morning? It's because I believe in it. It's not just because I get paid. Like, there's got to be more than that, unless I valued money, which I don't really. Now, this one's interesting. People who aligned with their values, so their actions are aligned with their values, appear more motivated. It's not that they have this motivation that you want. It's just that they're choosing activities and things to do that align with their values. So these are like, say, for example, your diehard exercisers who get up at 6 a.m., who, for however they do it, juggle a young family, but still make time to exercise. And you wonder, how did they get so motivated? It's because they value it. and they've put it right up in their top values, whereas your values might just be different. Now, that's not to say that you can't get up at 6 a.m. and exercise, but you're just going to have to look at your values, whatever they may be, and see if you can tie them in to still getting what you want, knowing that there's so many different ways to get what you want. Now, when you know what your values are and when you're acting into your values, you can see the forest for the trees. That means that you can actually see this light at the end of the tunnel. You can see what's in store for you at the end without it coming in, 3 or 6 months. It may be 2 to 3, 4, 5 years down the track. But because you have such strong values, you've got unwavering dedication to the cause, and you're just going to keep going. That's in contrast to people who are just focusing on short-term goals. Maybe they just want to lose 5 kilos. They're so focused on that they don't see either the journey that they're going to go on to get there, or, once they lose those 5 kilos, then what? They haven't considered where their future lies for them beyond, maybe 3 months. And what I'm trying to do is change that. And next we've just looked at your values. Now we're going to look at your objectives. So tell me what you want, what you really, really want. I got that song in your head now, didn't I? Love it. What was it? Beyonce last week, Spice Girls this week. So your objectives, they're things that you want. But in achieving them, you're getting closer to your end game. So if your end game is up here, objectives are down here. So they're things that are realistic, they fit in with your lifestyle, and they fit in with your current responsibilities. They're things that you want, not what somebody else wants for you. That doesn't work. It's something that you can already see yourself doing. So it is realistic, given your circumstances. You can do it better than a dead person. So for example, easy one, run 5Ks. Can a dead person do it better? No. Other example is like quit sugar. Can a dead person do it better? Yes, they can. Bad objective. Try that on yourself with some of the objectives that you have. See how you go. And the last one is that it is evaluatable. Apparently that's not a word, so I had to put the dots in. That just means that in your own way, you can show that you've got it or that you're working towards it. You can see progress. If it's not evaluatable, it cannot be an objective. And I know that's tough for some people who are really a little bit against measuring and tracking and that sort of thing. But it's whatever's meaningful to you, and there is always a way. It doesn't always have to be like jumping on the scales and checking your weight. And there's so many other ways to assess your objectives. Now, underneath your objectives, you've got your daily and weekly actions. So those small things that get you to your objective. And once you've achieved that objective, you move up the line to your next objective. Think of it that way. But if you just focused on your objective, let's say lose 5 kilos, which I know is terrible. I'm sorry, I'm just picking on it. So what are you going to do? Are you going to wake up every day and lose 5 kilos? No. So what are the things you need to do? Or what is someone who loses 5 kilos? What do they do every day and every week? Maybe find 3 things. So they're really small things, easy to digest. I feel like I've said this like so many times in other webinars. You're finding those small things, those small habits that can't get any smaller, that are absolutely foolproof. No more than 3 at a time. So as you know, I have my swimming goal. Yeah, you write on about all the time, Elise. What did I need to do to get started? How am I still doing it pretty consistently? Well, one, I needed the tools. I needed goggles and I needed a kickboard. So much better with those 2 things in my life, especially the kickboard, because I can feel like I'm swimming and doing a lot without getting too tired, so I can focus on the technique. I also check the weather. I check the weather religiously. So I just make sure that I can have an idea of the best days to go, where it's not going to be too windy, too rainy, that sort of thing. I schedule it in my calendar, so I make sure that I've actually got the time. As you know, I have a lot of time, so that's easy for me. And the last thing is I always just check, I keep it real and I check in with myself and I do remind myself, hey, at least like not everyone can swim, not everyone has access to water, not everyone has the time that you have to be able to do this. Just appreciate that you're doing this. And, I've basically swum every week for the last 52 weeks. Obviously, I've had some weeks off with, I can't swim in hotel quarantine and that sort of thing. But by the end of the year, I'm going to be so proud of what I have done. And it's been mostly consistent. All right. So this is where it starts to get a little bit messy. On the right, like I made this months ago and I haven't bothered changing it because it works. But I broke, don't fix it. But this is where it all ties in. So at the top, you've got the ultimate end game. You have arrived at this place where everything just falls at your feet and it's really easy. How did you get there? Well, you started off with some values-based objectives. So you know what your values are. It's what you believe in. It's very strong. It's unconscious. You don't have to think about it. It's just what you do naturally. And you make sure that your objectives, so the things that you want on the way to your ultimate end game, you make sure that they agree with each other. You have values-based objectives. So your objectives agree with your values agree with your objectives. Your daily and weekly actions are also in line with your values. So there has to be, what's that word, agreement? Yeah, we'll just go with it. All the way up the line. If something doesn't agree with your values, it ain't going to work, or it's going to be an absolute fight. So that's also why some goals don't pan out and you stop doing them. It's just because you don't know why you're doing them. So really spend some time on your values because they're so important to getting you to where you want to go. Okay, so a practical example. You're that same table. Now it's moved to the left. But this is me with my swimming goal. Hello. It's an easy one. So let me just take you to my values. My top 3 values, as decided by Dr. DeMartini when I did his values determination process, is movement always, prioritizing movement, helping others achieve their end game, and making sure that my life is balanced because it has not been balanced in the past. What I mean by that is that I don't work too much. I still make time for all my relationships and all my family members, plus all the duties that I have, like cooking and that sort of thing. So I'm well balanced in all facets of my life, and I don't let one take, not priority, but take up too much of my time when another one suffers. So they're my values. So when I look at my my objectives, I'm going to make sure that my objectives tick off those boxes. So I wanted to swim. I wanted to swim 52 times this year. I told you at the start of the year if you came to that webinar. So that means 1 per week average. That ticks off my movement always box. I want to improve my swimming. That also ticks off the movement always. I want to swim 400 meters non-stop freestyle. So they're all 3 things kind of like all wrapped in one. They all tick off the movement always box. And I held myself accountable through social media. So if you go to my Instagram, I've got one of those story highlights and I literally take a selfie of me like getting out of the water or getting in the water, just so you know that I've done it, just so I know I've done it. So that's me helping others achieve their end game. By my accountability, others can be accountable too. So obviously I can't just swim 52 times and say that I'm going to swim 52 times. I had to do more. So I bought the gear, I bought the kickboard goggles. I found the beaches that I felt comfortable at. I maintained that gratitude, especially when I didn't feel like going for a swim and I felt like I was just dragging my ass. And not gonna lie, there were some times where I just went in, ticked the box and got back out. I planned ahead. I do have a swimming lesson voucher and I feel really bad because I haven't used it yet. I do intend to, but I haven't used it yet. That's all I'm gonna say. Now, how does all this, how does learning how to swim decently and swimming consistently throughout the year feed into my ultimate end game? Well, I want to show people that they can learn new things. That's kind of my shtick. So whenever you come into YMC, this is what I expect you to appreciate, because it's what I'm going to shove down your throat anyway, so you might as well appreciate it. I'm going to rewrite some terrible stories that I wrote when I was a kid because I know I'm going to grow from it. I'm going to get rid of all that really weird childhood trauma and that sort of thing. It's going to make me a better person. And I'm going to gain more confidence, and I'm going to be okay seeking failure. So all these lessons that I learned along the way is going to get me closer to my ultimate end game. So now it just makes, swimming that much more meaningful, right? It's because I aligned it with my values. All right, so the end game goal getting blueprint. That is putting it all together. So we start off with your ultimate end game, what you really want. It's the lifestyle you want, your habits, your behaviors, and your outcomes. Then we look at what you need to do to get you to your ultimate end game. First, I would start with your values, making sure that your values are aligned with your ultimate end game. So why you do what you do, and you do it naturally, without even thinking, without even having to decide. That just is who you are. So then you write your objectives that agree with your values. So it's your milestones that tell you you're on your way to your end game. For me, at the moment, swimming's a big part of my end game. And then you go on to, all right, what do I need to do? What are the daily and weekly actions that you can do to get your objective, and start changing those behaviors until you start to become that person that exists in the ultimate end game. So again, it's not about short-term things. Your objectives will be short-term, although mine last, a year at a time. So it just depends on what short-term is for you. But there's no point in going that way if you want to end up that way. If you keep looking at your ultimate end game and what you need to do to get there, just focus on that. It's going to be a lot more rewarding, that's for sure. But these are the questions that we need to ask. Again, I'm going to repeat myself. This is at the start of the presentation. You have arrived at a point where your health and wellness is predictable, it's effortless, and you have all the experience to foresee shortcomings and manage setbacks. That also just really means that it's not like it's always going to be easy, but you know how to manage yourself. Life ain't easy. I think we all know that by now. It's not always just going to be linear and perfect, and COVID isn't just going to go away anytime soon. But if you can get yourself to a point where even when shit does hit the fan, you know how to manage it, that's a pretty great place to be. Because I dare say that's probably not most of you now, if I could be correct and honest. So these are the questions that you answer. What does it look like? What does it feel like to be at your ultimate end game? Like, paint me a picture. Can you see yourself there now? If you can't close your eyes and imagine yourself being that person, there's still something in the way, and you should not go any further. Go back to looking at your primaries. Go back to looking at your big rocks. Not your big rocks. Go back to looking at your primaries. Go back to looking at the negative thoughts in your mind. Go back to dealing with that stuff first, and then come back. Once you're about 50 to 70% there, then check on your values. Why did I choose that path? Why did I choose that island? And how did I get to that island? What are the stepping stones, and what are the resources I used to get to that island? And what did you do every day and every week? What tools are you using, and what habits did you change? Now that's a lot, so let me just show you in fun pictures. Okay. So this is, I'm just going to repeat it again because it makes sense to me. You have arrived at a point where your health and wellness is predictable, it's effortless, and you have all the experience to foresee shortcomings and manage setbacks. You have made it to Happy Island. That's there on the right. What does it look like, and what does it feel like? Can you see yourself there? So you're exactly where you want to be. Why did you choose that path? Why did you choose that island? Why not any of the other islands? What was wrong about them, or what wasn't quite right for you? How did you get there? Did you choose to swim? Did you ride on the back of a wild dolphin? Did you build a raft? What path did you choose? Because you can, they're all going to take you to the same place. So why did you choose that means to get there? Why is it going to work for you? So what are you doing every day and every week? What tools are you using, and what habits did you change? Say if you built a raft, were you banging it together with rocks, or did you have a hammer? Were you tying it together with vines, or did you have a rope? Did you use like a broken off airplane wing, or did you tie together logs? You tell me. Say if you rode a dolphin over, did you have to spend like weeks and weeks training a dolphin, trying to lure it in, and then did you have to like start to learn to speak dolphin language? Did you have to do some test runs? Did it work out? Like, what did you do? So let's get you off sad island, where all those negative thoughts are, where all that fear of failure is, and let's get you on your way to happy island. Right, to wrap it up, we've got the endgame fundamentals. These are just the things that you need to keep in mind and remember. If I haven't enforced it enough already, you got to do the inner work. If you're a little bit broken, if you're a little bit like down in the dumps, if you have some serious like negative self-talk things going on, if you're always talking yourself out of things, do the inner work first. Don't even bother starting to work towards goals, because you're just going to crash and burn. I'm sorry. Keep it simple. Like, less is more. Focus on your big rocks. So your big rocks can be your primaries, adequate nutrition, adequate sleep, feeling supported by those around you, feeling supported by your environment, being mostly pain-free. They can also be like the most obvious ways to change. Say if your end game was a jar, if you filled it up with big rocks, you're going to get there faster. Same with your objectives. But if you choose to focus on the smaller rocks, you're probably going to get there, but it's going to take you a lot longer, and it just may not work so well. So if we thought about a big rock item, let's think about gaining muscle, getting stronger. So some of your big rock exercises are things like push-ups, chest presses, deadlifts, squats, like your bread and butter stuff. But some people want to get too technical with, these different types of programming styles and changing it up every week and using all these tools like constricting blood flow and using all these different machines, all that stuff. Like, who has time for that? I'm sure somebody does. I'm sure it's going to make them strong. But if you're kind of like any client of mine, we ain't got time for that shit. So if you just keep it simple, better chance you're just going to get there. You're going to get there a bit faster than like fapping around with all the technical stuff, supplements and that sort of things. Don't worry about it. Number 3 is failure is progress. So on your way from sad island to happy island, there's things that are going to get in the way. Maybe your raft sinks. Maybe, you start sinking when you're swimming. You start, taking on water. Maybe a shark comes along and eats the dolphin. Does that mean that you are any worse off? Probably not. It just means that that way didn't work for you, or that you need to revise your daily habits and your daily and weekly actions and come back better and stronger. It does not mean that happy island is not for you, but when was it ever going to be that easy to get from sad island to happy island? Number 4, patience, process, and joy of the journey. Why would you waste your time just focusing on happy island, knowing that it's going to take probably years to get you all the way to happy island, when there's so many things that you can learn along the way and enjoy along the way? You can actually find a lot of, I don't know, what's the word? Pleasantries, it's not the right word, but I'm going with it, on the way. And you may just even be happy enough getting halfway and stopping there for whatever reason. And 2 analogies is flexibility is not about touching your toes. It's about what you learn on the way down. So don't just focus on touching your toes, but focus on all those little things. Don't judge your success by the mountain you climbed, but how you learn to climb. Don't lose yourself on just focusing on that one thing and being upset or not being happy until you get there, and just find joy on the way there. It's going to work out a lot better for you. And if you do fall short, you're still going to be wrapped instead of disappointed. Lastly is accountability. You can't get far without a solid realm of accountability, whatever works for you. That could be as much as a training diary. That could be as much as using Instagram, like I use Instagram. I don't take like body pics and that sort of thing. That's not my thing. But hey, I check in with the beach every time I go to say that I've done it. I'm on Strava. You can follow me. That's the running app. And every time I do a run, I give it a number. So today I did number 62. I'm supposed to do 100 by the end of the year. Do you think I'm going to get there? No. But if you look at like when you went to uni and the scores you got, that's still a pass. You got to know that, you know, being an A grade student, an A plus student, HDs, that's not the majority. That's only reserved to like the top 5% or whomever it is. Most of everyone, most of all people who start to do something will still get there, but they'll get there with a bit of mediocrity. They'll get there to the 50 to 60%, but they're still there. And they're still doing a fair sight better than those that didn't get very far and decided to stop. So never feel like, you know, for my example, I didn't get 100 out of 100 runs. Did I fail? No. I'm still running. So if I decided to give up at any point around mid-year, that's when I'd be disappointed. But because I'm still being kind of like off and on, I've been overall consistent. I'm not saying I haven't been inconsistent. There's been weeks where I haven't run. There's been weeks where I'm injured. This neuroma thing flares up every now and again, and I shouldn't run. But it hasn't stopped me from running in the, you know, longer scheme. So find the accountability that works for you. Sometimes it's a trainer, a coach, like this guy. Maybe you just need somebody who you feel accountable to, even though at some point I do want you to be an independent woman. Maybe it's a friend. Maybe it's an app. Who knows? Just find what works for you. Make sure it works for you. Cool. So your challenge number 3, you can't get away without doing another one, is if you have a good handle on your primaries and if you're filling out the check-ins, you all have a handle on your primaries. You're at least, you know, most of the time 7 out of 10 in your sleep, your stress, your feeling support, that sort of thing. If you've made sure that the negative self-talk has a lid on it, or you're doing the work also provided in one of these webinars, you can now complete the endgame blueprint for yourself for next year. I know we're not supposed to like think of the new year as an excuse to start. We should be starting these things now, but heck, like what a year it's been. Christmas is around the corner. Let's start in 2022. Let's be real. Doesn't have to be January 1st, but you know what I mean. So complete the endgame blueprint for yourself. Use the 7 weeks of webinars to help fill in the gaps. So if you feel like you don't quite have a grasp on something, go back to the webinar that relates to that. Answer the question about what your ultimate endgame looks like and feels like, and just keep going down the list. I don't want to answer those questions another time. They're there. All right, reminders. Challenge number 3. I just showed it to you. One more big ass super salad. I hope by now that you just know to do it and that it's not forced. This is something that I do want to leave with you. And it's something that I have definitely gotten good at. You know, this was my year-long thing, was to make more salads and get creative. And I've definitely gotten more creative with my salads, and I just make them because I want to have it in the fridge. I want it as an option. So that's been really good for me. I hope it's good for you. Not for like weight loss hashtag, but just because it's full of nutrients and it's good for you. 3+1 program workouts. They have really ramped up. This is testing week. So if you come to the class Tuesday and or Friday, you're going to get tested because it's not going to take long. It's all of about 3 to 5 minutes, and the rest of the workout is other stuff. You've also got your other program workouts. I'll try and squeeze a few things in here and there, but I can't guarantee anything. Just follow the program, get it done, and please check in on Friday. It's going to be a bit of a whopper, but I really need this feedback. Even if you've kind of dropped off for the last check-ins, yeah, I see you. This one is actually really important. I need that feedback. Otherwise, I don't know if I'm doing a good job. I don't know if I've just wasted the last 8 weeks of my life on these webinars and things like that. So your feedback is just so vital, and that's just going to be like a Christmas present for me. so that if and when I do these in the future, they are going to be valuable to someone. Okay, do that for me, please. That was the last slide. So what I'm going to do, close this. Yay, we did it. Let me come back to you. Stop presenting. All right, thank you for dealing with me. Thank you for dealing with my sniffles as well. Ready for one big week. Any questions, you can ask. I love to talk about all these things like all day, every day. So please, 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 if you want to clarify anything, it's just going to play to my ego that somebody wants to learn more of what I've given to them. So please, I'll see you in the class. Thank you for hanging out. And woohoo, 8 weeks of webinars done. Love it.